Hello, biologists. Welcome to our class. This is Biology 1120, General Biology 2, and we are going to start the semester by talking about animals. So if you look at this picture here, you might see some animals here. People, that's probably an animal you're familiar with. Fish. But actually, even these like lacy, curly things here that can't move, those are animals too. All the organisms in this picture are actually animals. So the first question we have then is, what makes something an animal? So animals are multicellular. That means we are made of more than one cell. We are heterotrophic. That means you cannot go stand out in the sun, breathe in some carbon dioxide, and make your own sugar. You have to eat something. So just like here, we have to get our energy and our nutrients by eating something else, other organisms. We are eukaryotes. That means that our cells have a nuclei. Animals have tissues. For the most part, animals are made of tissues, and those tissues develop from embryonic germ layers. So here you can see this is an embryo developing, and it's kind of forming a little germ layer in here. We can be grouped by different types of nutritional mode. We can be grouped by different types of cell structure and specialization, by our reproduction and development, and by different body plans. We have different types of symmetry, different types of tissues, different body cavities. Our blastopore, there's a word we haven't used yet, but we will soon. What happens to the blastopore? That's this little indentation here. And then types of cleavage, that's also a word we haven't used yet, but that refers to how cells start dividing after sperm and egg have fused. Here you see nerve cells and muscle cells. These are cell types that are unique to animals. So these types of cells, nerve cells, which make our brain and spine and the ability to sense our environment, and muscle cells, which let you move around. These are unique cell types in animals. Also, animals are able to move, usually sometimes. We can also detect and capture potential prey, so we have something to eat. So then your first question, which of the following are unique to animals? If we were in class, I would be giving you this question as an iClicker question. So you've missed that class today, but you still get to answer the question. Cells that have mitochondria, are those unique to animals? The structural carbohydrate chitin, is that unique to animals? Nervous conduction and muscular movement, is that unique to animals? Heterotrophy, or more than one of these responses are correct. So normally I'm going to leave it to you to figure out your answers when we're doing a lecture online, but I will take you through this first one. So cells that have mitochondria, well, we do have mitochondria, that is correct that we do have that, but so do plants, so do fungi, so do all eukaryotes. So A is not unique to animals. Chitin, this is what is made of the exoskeletons of insects and arthropods like that, but fungi also have chitin in their cell wall, so that's not unique to us. Nerve cells and muscle cells, we just talked about on the last slide. This is unique to animals. So C is the correct answer. Heterotrophy, we are heterotrophic. We do have to eat something else. Fungi are also heterotrophic, though, so that's not unique to us. So the answer here would be C. Let's talk about different types of nutritional modes. So animals, plants, and fungi all differ in how we get our nutrition. Plants are photoautotrophic. That word photoautotrophic means they can use sunlight and they can use carbon dioxide to make their own energy and sugar. They make their own organic compounds through photosynthesis. Fungi are heterotrophic, so fungi don't do photosynthesis at all, but they don't have a digestive system. They don't eat. What they do is they excrete digestive enzymes onto wherever they're growing. So that mushroom that's on a fallen tree is excreting those enzymes externally, and that breaks down that tree where it's growing, and then it absorbs those sugars into itself. That mold that's on the orange in the back of your fridge is excreting enzymes that's breaking down that orange peel, and then it's bringing those sugars. It's absorbing those sugars into its body. Animals are heterotrophic, but we mainly ingest. It's just like this lizard here, this chameleon, is going to grab this bug and pull it inside of its body. So inside of our body, we have some sort of digestive system or digestive cavity or something internally where we keep our enzymes to break down food. That happens internally. So both animals and fungi are heterotrophic. What distinguishes animal heterotrophy from fungal heterotrophy? Okay, I walked you through the first question. This one is on you, though. So pause, write down your answer. If you need to look back at the last slide, but make sure that you're very comfortable with this, because this is a very important concept about how animals, plants, and fungi all get our nutrients in 3 different ways. Okay, next let's talk about how our cells become specialized, how they become different parts of your body. Why are your fingers and your eyes, they've specialized into these different types of your body. So we are multicellular. We are made of more than one cell. We do not have cell walls in our cells. That is something you should have mastered from the first semester of this class. We do not have cell walls, but we do have some structural support outside of our cells through structural proteins. So this would be something like collagen, things that surround our cells to give us some support. Nervous tissue and muscle tissue are 2 types of cell types, 2 types of tissues that we are unique to animals. Those are defining characteristics of animals. So if you're looking at a specimen that has a nervous tissue, or you're looking at a specimen that has muscle tissue, you know that that's an animal you're looking at. When we're talking about a tissue, we're talking about groups of cells that are similar to each other, and they're organized into groups. They work together to do something. So your skin, or the lining of your stomach, or your heart muscle, those are tissues. Most animals are going to reproduce sexually. Diploid stage is the dominant of our life cycle. So we have a haploid stage to make our sperm and eggs, and other than that, all the cells in our body are diploid. Most animals, there are some exceptions, are going to require 2 parents, a mommy and a daddy. The sperm and egg cells are produced by meiosis, and then they fuse to make a zygote. This is a zygote here, and it is diploid. It got half of its chromosomes from the sperm from dad, half of the chromosomes from the egg from mom. And then once that happens, this zygote is going to undergo cleavage. Cleavage is when mitosis happens, cell division is happening, but there's not growth. So you can see by this stage of cleavage, you have 8 cells, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then on the back another 4. But those 8 cells are the same size as that original egg. So you've had mitosis going on. You've got a copy of DNA in each one of these cells, but it's not growing every time it divides. Then once you get to usually around this 8 or 16 cell stage, you start forming a blastula. Cleavage is going to be followed by a blastula formation, and that is going to create this hollow ball of cells. So you see all of these cells forming this sphere, but it's hollow inside. There's nothing inside. This inside hollow area is called the blastocele. Okay, so you can tell me what a zygote is, you can tell me what cleavage is, you can tell me what a blastula is, and you can tell me what a blastocele is. Then following the formation of a blastocele, you're going to have gastrulation. Gastrulation is when these cells start folding in, and when they start folding in, you start getting layers. And these layers are going to have different purposes through the development of this organism. So you end up with an inner layer of cells that's called the endoderm. So endo, like inside. The outer layer of cells is called the ectoderm. Ecto like exiting. It's on the exterior. And this kind of opening here, you've got an opening and then a pouch inside. This opening is called a blastopore. You might remember that word a couple of slides ago. I said there was a new word. That blastopore is this opening here into this inner area, and this inner cavity is called the archenteron. Okay, that's a lot of vocabulary words. You need to be able to tell me how this whole process happens from here to here, but you also need to be able to tell me what is a zygote, what is cleavage, what is a blastula, what is a blastocele, what is gastrulation, what is a blastopore, what's an archenteron, ectoderm, endoderm. Blastocele is this area between the endoderm and the ectoderm. And we're probably going to put some other stuff in the middle there too, in most animals. So that's a lot of information. That's a very information-dense slide, but make sure that you are spending your time. I would probably make a whole bunch of flashcards if I were trying to memorize this. What is cleavage? What is a blastula? what is gastrulation, just to make sure that I was able to define all of those. And if I were studying, I would also pull out a blank sheet of paper and make sure I could draw this whole process from zygote to a gastrula. Let's watch this happen. Here is a sea urchin. And here you can see one cell. This is one cell. And we're going to see it go through these stages. Okay, so you can see here's the nucleus. And that cell is now 2 cells. What is that called? Those 2 cells, but you can see it's not growing. And then 2 cells become 4 cells. Do you remember that process is called? That's cleavage. Now we've got this hollow ball of cells. Do you remember what this hollow ball of cells is called and what this inside part of the cells is called? And now we are starting to send some cells in here. And we're going to have an inner layer of cells and an outer layer of cells. Do you remember what those layers of cells are called? Do you remember what this indentation is called? And these layers, this outer layer and this inner layer, are going to have different responsibilities. This is going to eventually become the digestive tract. And then these tissues, these cells will have distinct tissues that they're responsible for making. These cells on the ectoderm will have responsibilities for what they're going to make. Most animals have at least one larval stage in them. In people, we don't. We are born looking like kind of littler versions of people, but we're still people looking, as opposed to most animals that have a larval stage that looks very different from how the adult stage looks. The larva is going to be sexually immature, so it cannot lay eggs, it cannot make sperm, it cannot reproduce. And it's going to go through something called metamorphosis when it changes its body form. And that control of how our body form is going to be created, what is up and down, what is left and right, is under the control of homeotic genes. We have homeotic genes in all animals that control other genes. So homeotic genes are not the genes to make your head. Homeotic genes are the genes that control that. In this part of the body, it's your head. You're going to turn into a head. This part of the body is your front. It's going to turn into the front parts. So homeotic genes are very similar genes in a lot of animals. That's an important gene to be comfortable with, to be able to say that they are controlling how other genes are turning on, where other genes are turning on, to create that adult animal with the correct body plan. So you have feet where your feet should be, an antenna where your antenna should be, and you don't have feet where your antenna should be. There's different kinds of metamorphosis. There's an incomplete metamorphosis where the organism has a nymph stage that looks like a small adult, and it just goes through that incomplete metamorphosis to become the sexually mature adult. And then complete metamorphosis, where there's larval stages that really all that larva is going to do is eat and grow. I think of that book, The Very Hungry Caterpillar, where it just is eating. It's eating everything it sees. So that's all they're doing, eating and growing. Then they develop a pupal stage, and during that pupa, they're going to transition to the adult form and emerge as the adult. Okay, I will see you in our next video. We're going to talk about kind of the history of animals from the oldest first animals where we came from up to where we are today. All right, see you in a little bit. Bye.